Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining here today. My name is Becky McLean, and I'm the Director of Communications at Paxos. I'm gonna give it one more minute because starting right on the dot on a Thursday afternoon seems a bit cruel. So appreciate all of those early birds who are already logged in with us. So one more minute and then we'll start. Okay, we have some good numbers up, so I'm going to take this slide down so I can see everyone. Welcome. Okay, as I mentioned, if you just joined, my name is Becky McLean, and I am the Communications Director here at Paxos. I'm going to be leading us through a nice conversation around our culture here at Paxos, what our engineering culture and how we build products looks like for candidates. So definitely feel free to ask some questions. I think we definitely have heard many of the similar questions over the course of our time growing our team. So we have a feeling that we have a sense of what the hard-hitting questions will be. But before I dig in, there's definitely a mix of how familiar you may be with Paxos. So I figured I'd introduce my co-panelists here. I'd run us through a high level of who Paxos is and some of our products, and then we get into questions. So I am joined here with Kyle Libra, who is a Director of Product. Kyle, wave. Each of you wave as I call your name like we're in kindergarten. Shai Borochov, who is a Senior Engineering Manager.
Hello,
Shai,
everyone.
welcome. And then Simon McKelvey, who is a Director of Engineering Operations.
Hey, everyone.
So first off, Paxos is, if you're not familiar, we are a regulated blockchain infrastructure. So what does that mean in this world? I always tend to ask myself, and I'm the communications person, it means we are building solutions for companies to power their end users to access digital assets and the crypto world. So you may be familiar with our name or brand because of our partnerships with big companies like PayPal, Venmo, Interactive Brokers, Mercado Libre, MasterCard, Nubank. We take a regulation-first approach to building our products. Our belief is that the only way we can really introduce systemic financial system change is through safe regulated solutions and by bringing in global companies who have the end users. So we always want to make sure we are doing things within regulatory clarity. Paxos was the first company to secure a trust license in New York State under the Department of Financial Services. So all of our products are regulated under that banner. And then last year we secured the first Major Payments Institute license for a digital asset company from MAS, the Monetary Authority of Singapore. We are a global company. It's nice to say that on this call right now, we have Simon, who's in Ireland, I'm in LA, Kyle and Shai are in New York. We are global in our operations. We have hubs in London, in Singapore, and other countries. And our global headquarters is in the US. So the easiest way to kind of wrap your head around how Paxos is driving change with blockchain infrastructure is to think about some numbers and to give a sense of scale. So today we power more than 10 million active wallets. Now, what does that mean? That means through our core partnerships with the companies that I mentioned, we are facilitating more than 10 million individual new users to enter the digital asset ecosystem. So, for example, if you are somebody that has logged into your Venmo lately and you tried to buy Bitcoin, That in the background is powered by Paxos. You're not always going to know our brand, but you're going to know that if your assets are safe when you're working with us. We're also known because we are a digital asset token issuer. So we have 2 tokens that we issue today that are both regulated under the New York Department of Financial Services. That is our Pax Dollar USDP, which is a US dollar backed stablecoin, and Pax Gold, which is an investment grade gold backed token. So both of those are safe, regulated, and because Paxos is a trust company, we hold all assets in a way that it's always available to our customers, which is the key differentiator. Again, as we're thinking about growing the impact of digital assets, it's really important to do so with consumer protections in mind, and regulation is a way in which we can ensure our end users are always protected. So that's kind of the big picture. And what I know, there's a lot of questions around, how are we building these products? How do we think about engaging a global team with such a global technology? So I figured I'd kick off with one of our first questions, which is really, what are the products we're working on right now? Where are we going in the next year, year and a half, 2 years? So for that, I'm going to pass it to Kyle Libra. Tell us our big product initiatives that we have coming up.
All right, thanks, Becky. Unfortunately, I can't say a lot of things that we're working on because they are not yet public. I would say one of the more exciting things about working at Paxos is you can tell by the names that Becky just mentioned, these are some of the biggest financial institutions in the world. And, we don't start working with someone weeks before the initiative goes live. Sometimes those are years prior. You can imagine the scale and the size of our launches, how much work goes into those. And so I'd say some of the most exciting and biggest initiatives we are working on currently, and what I spend my time day to day on, are things that may not see the light even in 2023, or multi-year initiatives with other name brand companies. But I think it's really exciting to be able to sit in meeting with Fortune 100 executives and understand what they're actually thinking in terms of their crypto roadmaps. They go out years in the future and how they want to partner with us to do those things, even though as far as the public statements they've made, they might today be doing nothing with crypto as far as the news says. But definitely the most exciting things working on those long-lived, hugely impactful products.
Awesome. So when we're talking about building these products, obviously there are a ton of different languages that engineers will need to employ and understand. And if you're looking to join Paxos, having familiarity with those things is really helpful. So Shai, can you talk about kind of our tech stack and what are the primary languages that we use to build product?
Sure, yeah. So hi, everyone. I'm Shai. Nice to have you here. So at Paxos, we're in a cloud environment. We run everything in a cloud. We mostly rely on either EC2 instances or Kubernetes. Most of our applications are deployed in Kubernetes. Our code is either Kotlin or Golang or Rust. We have some Java code and some other legacy code that we're rewriting, trying to optimize our platform constantly by building new microservices, decomposing services, using the latest and greatest modern tooling such as CI/CD, using Argo CD, having a lot of test coverage. So every engineer writes tests, and we try to have a high percentage of coverage. We use smoke and load tests to kind of scale and prove the reliability of our platform. And yeah, this is pretty much, pretty cutting edge.
It's a lot more than I know. So I'm impressed if all of you can understand that, because I do not necessarily. Simon, now you're in Ireland. We're working across time zones. Can you talk to us about how our engineering culture works in such a distributed way, and what are some of the tools that we use to get work done?
Yes, thank you, Becky. So as you've rightly said, I'm in Ireland. I work at a different time zone to the rest of you guys, but that's the nature of our business. So you've named some big partners there that obviously have a global presence. And Paxos, as a sort of platform team, we look to grow and organize ourselves in a way that enables us to operate globally. So in terms of how we work, async for a start. You'll always find something's happening 24/7 in Paxos. So when somebody's sleeping, somebody's working, and we try and structure our teams within a sort of 5-hour radius. So from an engineering perspective, you do not want to be sitting waiting for somebody 8, 10, 12 hours out to be reviewing your code. So we try and structure ourselves to say, okay, if I'm working on a product or feature, I get my peer reviews, I can get that deployed, I can get it through the environments in a very timely manner. So we talk about blockchain technology and being efficient and speed. In Paxos, we like to work at a fast pace. Okay, it's something we're proud of. And to do that and to keep up to the demand of our customers in a partnership, obviously, if they have a feature or a latest product they want to launch, Kyle's already alluded to it, this can be a 12 to 18 month lead time. We have to structure that in a way that, yes, we design it, we take it through cycles, we work in sprints, and we make sure that somebody is always on point to drive it forward. So time zones don't really matter to us. Everybody knows their role. You play in a team, you do what you say you're going to do, and you can be sure at the end of the day, somebody will pick up the baton and take it forward. And that's part of the excitement. When you end the day, you can guarantee you come in the next day and something will have changed or progressed.
That's good to say. I like that. I think a lot of times people join a startup, even though Paxos has been around for 12 years now. A lot of people join companies at our size because they want to make an impact and they want to drive influence over how product is structured and built. So, Simon, can you talk about how engineers should think about the projects that they work on, how they can drive impact, and then also potential career growth and trajectory?
Absolutely, Becky. So as I think it was Kyle said at the start about replatforming the financial system, there's lots of different interesting use cases. We don't have all the answers. So we need to approach this with an innovative mindset. So you alluded to Paxos being 12 years in existence, and we've got people who are long tenured and have seen that success and the growth that we've experienced. We've also got people that come in the last 6, 12, 18 months who have seen success elsewhere, and they're bringing in to make a real impact. So as you've alluded to, everybody that we talk to, whether it be in an interview loop, is around how do I come in and make it like I'm feeling an impact. Okay, we're not a massive company, we're not in the thousands, but we do pretty big. We punch above our weight in terms of what we do in the market. So coming in, it's not like all the answers are there and you take something and you just turn the wheel on it. We've got a really complex problem to solve here. We don't have the answers. We're open to opinion. We're also open to iterate, and it's okay to make a mistake as long as we can recognize that, get back on track, work with our partners. As we say, we're doing this, yes, to build infrastructure, to build out a platform to scale, but we're doing it because we want to make real world impact here. So I have had the luxury of working in traditional finance for 15, 16 years. I have seen the systems, I've seen the mainframes, and when you see how this has all changed and where it can go and the opportunity, coming in, whether you're a software engineer at entry level and you want to have a career path there on a technical track, absolutely, we can support that. But again, it's not the single thread here. If you come into Paxos, there's opportunity to move between technical pathways, management pathways. You can go to management if you want to come back to technical. That's being supported too. So again, it's around challenging yourself, coming into work every day, knowing there's something there that actually excites me. As you say, we're globally distributed. There's loads and loads and loads of domain expertise across the business, not even in engineering only, in product, in growth, in compliance. These are all new innovative things that are happening here. So we're always learning, and we're keen to learn off each other, which is a really, really interesting part of Paxos and our approach to collaboration, because we don't have the masses of a team, and we come together and focus on problems and resolving those problems. Yeah,
what you said about always learning, that's part of the reason why I've been at Paxos now for 4 years. There is just always something new that is happening, that it's a very intellectually stimulating place. And in my role with what I oversee, I get a lot of exposure to our regulation and how regulation shapes our strategy and how it affects how we talk about our products. But in terms of building our products, Kyle, how does the product team think about the opportunities or challenges of being a regulated company in a really important and impactful field, which is financial services?
Yeah, so regulatory requirements are just another set of inputs, like any other set of product requirements. They are day one things we start to think about in collaboration with our engineering counterparts. A lot of times, the things we build, we actually preview to regulators before we even write a line of code. Part of our approach is seeking approval in advance of these things rather than forgiveness after the fact that maybe you see other people in the industry doing. We think the more trustworthy approach will win in the long term. And I would generally say that the regulatory burden is not really a burden at all. It is ultimately a set of requirements that make our product stronger, better, and safer for users. And that trustworthiness in protecting users' assets is first and foremost of everything we build.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned that we do show regulators our plan forward before we even get into the writing process and the build process. So Shai, can you speak to us about what is that exact build process for an engineering team, and really how do those teams break down?
Sure. So in terms of coming up with ideas for products and the roadmap, there is really kind of a balance between developing features and continuing to strengthen the platform scale, reliability, and resiliency. We usually have kind of annual goals and then quarterly goals and then sprint goals. Our sprints are every 2 weeks. And the goals usually incorporate both the engineering and the product requirements to sort of have a unified view of the product needs. In terms of the development life cycle or steps, we start usually with a design review. We go into developing a backlog. We operate in a Scrum kind of 2-week sprints. Any feature goes through rigorous code reviews and testing, and then we deploy it through the environments, the non-prod environments, as well as eventually deploying to production. The fact that we're regulated, as Kyle said, means that we have a lot of rigor around our design reviews and our code reviews. Everything is subject to review by the security and the appropriate infrastructure teams to ensure the maximum reliability and highest standards of security are met. And we try to generally reuse standardized patterns. We develop so many different things in so many different teams, so reusability of patterns is important. As well as trying to have kind of containerized microservices that are responsible for individual tasks.
Thanks, Shai. And I guess this is really a question for both Shai and Simon. One of our guests asked, you know, are there any co-located teams? So are there geographies where there are certain teams that are, you know, focused on one product more specifically, or is it diversified and deliberately so because of our global scale?
So I'll take that one, Becky, if that's okay. It's a great question to start because, again, we talk to a lot of candidates and they want to understand, am I working this block of time and that's it, or is somebody handed over to it? So what we try and do, back to the point I made earlier, we try and make sure we have this 5 hours radius in terms of a team, okay? Some of our teams are long established, long lived, okay? They've been here from the very start of the exchange, they're mature. Other teams have maybe started in a shorter time frame, maybe the last 12 months. So what we try and do is put the principles in place to say, okay, what is this product or feature that we're going to be working on? What part of the platform are we working on? Okay, so what does that platform need to do? So if we're in the commodity space, it's maybe different to working in the sort of digital assets, okay? And we then say, okay, if that team, a good example I can probably give is the actual blockchain team. So the blockchain team had a phenomenal 2022 and they grew in number to the point that it made it, okay, we need to actually review how we organize ourselves. What's our operating model here? And we actually split into 2. And when we split into 2, we then did have an appreciation of time zones, okay? So our blockchain core and our blockchain integrations, they split themselves right from the West Coast of the US, right east past me in terms of there's presence over in London, as you alluded to. So that's an example of they have a common goal on the platform. They provide what our blockchain team does. And again, they're working out a different time zone. So we don't want that 8 hours, 10 hour stretch working. We can avoid it. But being honest, when we establish teams at the start, there may be some trade-offs or sacrifices we have to do, but when we get to the level of maturity, we then try to be respectful of that because it's very, very important about the work-life balance as well. Okay, so even Becky yourself, you will often tell us, go have a walk, clear your head, have your coffee. We're not wanting people to be sitting, waiting or watching a thread to see what the response is. It's you have your work pattern, you have your personal and family life, and you manage that accordingly. And that's something that Paxos really encourages and we all try and adhere to.
Yeah, I also wanted to add here that the teams are remote first. So while we do try to have everybody be on the same time zone, it is imperative that we get together and we meet. So we have opportunities to have offsites and get together as a team, usually product and engineering, and discussing everything. So there is a lot of value in kind of getting together during an offsite and exchanging ideas in kind of a remote first environment.
I just came from my team's offsite last week, and it's refreshing to be in person and have that collaboration in a really kind of intense way over several days, and then also use the productivity and the flexibility that remote work offers. So finding that balance has been great. Shai, you predate me at Paxos. You are an old guard guy. You have seen various iterations of our product, and really you've seen us become a platform first company. So can you talk about how that has impacted your experience, and really how you think about the future at Paxos now because of that focus?
Yeah, sure. So I joined Paxos over 5 years ago. I joined the commodities/securities, and then kind of shifted over to trading. So now I manage the trading teams at Paxos, and really it's always been regulated, and it's always been about providing value for the customers. It's always been about delivering something that will be pressure tested by the market, that will have the right product market fit. And I always say that, we've launched so many products and the impact has been tremendous. Every product that we've launched has been used immediately by customers. But when I joined, we were building platforms that were focused, I would say, more on specific customers in mind when building them, and focusing the resources on what we needed, as opposed to finding what the platform needs to have and what we need to build in the platform to be able to support a vast and diverse set of customers for each use case. So we kind of went through a pressure testing and proving our model period and focused on our growth. And now we have proven that, and we are continuing to focus on growth and scale and the customer experience, but in a way that is more product first and platform first. So how does that translate to engineering experience? First and foremost, we are kind of broken up into multiple engineering teams that handle either specific business lines, such as trading or blockchain, and core verticals. So we can have engineering teams building the core platform and the core product, like production engineering and microservices, as well as the business needs. And then, like I said earlier, we have a very thorough product decision process that is starting from the annual goals to the quarterly goals to the sprint goals. But we still continue and maintain relationships with product and BD to define innovative new products and understanding what the customer needs are. So we're still very dynamic, but we just have a stronger core foundation that we always kind of go through the rigor of thinking, what is the platform need for each feature?
That's great. So taking a step back, we really focused on Paxos specific topics so far, but I want to take a moment to address a lot of questions that we get about joining this industry in the first place. So Kyle, right now we are in a bit of a crypto winter, as some would say. How does that impact our forward-looking approach to building product? And really, how does, just in your own personal sense, how does that make you more excited or less excited for the future of our platform and products?
It really doesn't change our thinking at all. We were so focused on the long-term view. We try to ignore the short-term ups and downs of the industry. We know there's been a lot, there will continue to be a lot. We're focused, like Shai was saying, what's going to happen quarters or years from now. And we know, in working in tandem with partners, that they're planning for things that are years out, and we're focused on those goalposts. We've also fortunately run the company very financially prudently. So it's easy when you have plenty of revenue and you have large cash balance still from last fundraise, that that you can have the luxury of thinking years ahead and not have to worry about making numbers next week or next month to keep going.
Yeah, I think that's something that I often get that question a lot too. Because Paxos has always taken a very long-term approach to this systemic change that we want to bring to financial services, we really think in the long term and in every way, in how we approach, pursuing regulatory licensing, building products, who we want to appeal to. And just today I was, and Kyle, you'll appreciate this, I was thinking back to early or in 2020, before we had announced our partnership with PayPal to introduce buy, sell, hold of cryptocurrencies to their platform. And how much has changed in the industry in that 3-year period of time is really quite eye-opening. When you're living in it in the day-to-day, it can seem like a drag. But so much has changed since PayPal entered the space first at the end of 2020 to today, where they're launching new capabilities. We are launching with new partners. We're introducing new products. So that's extremely exciting. Another question that always comes up with that is, how is Paxos differentiated compared to our competitors? Why would somebody choose a Paxos product instead of another competitor's? Why should somebody that's interested in joining blockchain and cryptocurrencies join Paxos and not a competitor? So can you speak to that a bit, Kyle?
Sure. So I think there's two main reasons, two different ways you could think of how we're differentiated. First is that we're this one-stop shop in terms of platform. So lots of interoperable components and independent products that a partner working in tandem with us can put together the APIs to solve specific use cases. And the second is just our trustworthiness first approach. We actively go out and seek to be regulated in different markets, and that's also something we're sometimes working on years before we enter a market. We want to be part of the conversation with regulators when they're even starting to think about how a jurisdiction might handle crypto, so we can bake in those requirements from day one or day zero. And we just don't think, there's lots of competitors who can do like single things we do, but we don't think anyone today in the market has the breadth of capabilities in conjunction with the regulatory frameworks that we can offer. And we feel like by nature of the size and magnitude of the financial institutions we've launched, sometimes we're doing day one launches to 100 million plus users. So we think nothing else compares in that way.
That's great. Also, just want to, while we're almost halfway through, encourage any questions that you guys have pressing top of mind, submit those, and we'll keep going through them as we go along. One question that did just come in that I want to address myself is, how have recent pressures from the SEC impacted our internal culture and product initiatives? I always take the the approach of, back in 2020, any company was doing anything because regulators, Washington DC did not care, because they did not think there was potential in this technology. Right now, there's so much regulatory scrutiny, which is a good thing, because if they didn't think it was going to be a technology that was impactful, no one would pay attention to it. So I think, and I know that internally, this pressure and scrutiny is a positive, because it's making everyone be better, be safer, and build in a more long-term way. There's the companies that are doing the right things are getting asked the tough questions because our products are making change. So we see it as nothing unusual or surprising, and we're really positive that we're on the right course. Another question that came in was more specific about offsites, which I do want to address because it's fun. Actually, this year we had our first annual all company, what we called Paxos Forum, where everyone from around the world came into Miami. We had 3 days on location, well, not on location because we don't have an office in Miami, but in one location, where we had a lot of programming, we had external speakers, we talked with customers, we had team building. So that was something that was really remarkable for all of us to get to see a lot of people that we've worked very closely with over the last year for the first time in person. So that's something that we do on an annual basis now. And when we look at individual functions and teams, each vertical team or function within Paxos is encouraged and required to meet on-site in one place on a quarterly basis. So at least 4 times a year, you are meeting in person with your team. For people that happen to be in a location that's close to an office where Paxos is based, we have offices in New York, London, and Singapore. You're obviously welcome to go work in person. And then there can be ad hoc meetups, as there's so many conferences and customer meeting opportunities throughout the year. So there's lots of opportunities there. Okay, now jumping to another question. Cybersecurity, that's something that is very top of mind in every field. So Simon, how do we think about security at Paxos, and how do we think about risk prioritization?
Good question. Just before we move off the offsites, I love the offsites because there's a 98% chance I land in a climate that's much hotter than where I live. So I encourage them. So cybersecurity, yes, hot topic and something we take very seriously here at Paxos. So if you mention security, AppSec, InfoSec, some people interpret that as the sort of last boss on the video game. Not the approach we take here at Paxos. So basically what we do to approach this, and again, we talked earlier about roadmaps and products and new features. We try and embed security in the teams at the start. Okay, so you'll probably find a cross-functional team will have security representation. It'll have maybe a blockchain representation. It'll have, let's say, signing, for example, which is another team. And we put it there at the start so that they can ask the tough questions, because they're not only looking internally in terms of what we're doing and making sure our security posture is what we need, but if we're also leveraging partners externally. So if we have a new vendor coming in, for example, we need to make sure that we have taken our due diligence on that vendor. We understand risk profile. We understand what their commitment to us is, etc. Are they going to be able to support what our use cases are going to be? So to answer your question very simply, we embed it in our teams. Okay, we don't see as InfoSec as this big baddie that we don't want to talk to. We encourage it. Our CISO is very personable. Again, we'll deal with you whether you're trying to bring a new vendor on board and it's at a contract stage, or you're actually trying to deliver feature or product. It's a conversation. It's okay. There's going to be some tough, a lot more technical complexity than I'll ever deal with, and they will focus on it, break down the problems, try and work it through. But the main thing is finding a solution. Okay, so there's more than one way to do these things, but we need to make sure that it's something that's actually going to set us up for, again, medium long term, as opposed to something that gets us the next 2 quarters. So again, security first, and being able to monitor what we build as well. Okay, so we're 24/7, 365. We have, again, people watching our physical security. You mentioned our office spaces and anything we need secure there, but also our surface of the platform. Okay, so 10 million and counting in terms of who's using it, and the various big institutions that rely on us. So again, we can't ever come up short on our security front. Our regulators expect of us, we expect it of ourselves. And again, it's a security first mindset, but it's done in a way that's not confrontational. It's more to get the best, and we all want to get a good outcome.
That's great. There were 2 questions that I actually think we can kind of address in one answer. And one question was about tokenization and what are the assets that could be put on a blockchain. And the second question is, we want to be known as a blockchain infrastructure company versus a crypto company. So Kyle, I'm going to put this one to you. You know, internally, we really talk very frequently about not being a crypto company and being a blockchain infrastructure company, because we do believe all assets can exist on a blockchain. So can you talk about our CEO, Charles Cascarilla's vision there, and how we think about building product from that?
Yeah, I mean, we think eventually, you might debate the timeline, but eventually all of the world's assets will be tokenized. And we try to take a super pragmatic approach to it, though. Like we need to tokenize the ones that have immediate use cases and the most interest in. We don't want to tokenize things that have niche application or like 20 years from now might be important. And so you can see that in our offering. That's why we have several $100 million in tokenized gold with the real gold backing those tokens. Sits in a vault in London. We have our stablecoin offering, USDP, tokenized dollars. And so we started with the asset classes that we think of immediate use, but more and more those things will evolve to be other types of assets. And then the other part of your question, we think of ourselves as blockchain infrastructure because we want to be the pipes behind the scenes enabling partners. All the great tech companies of the last few decades have been platforms, and that's what we see ourselves as. We're not ever going to go out there and compete with our partners to capture end retail users. We want to be the enablement layer behind the scenes, and we're perfectly happy if no one knows our name, yet everyone uses our services.
Yeah, that I always like to say that if you don't know our name, but you're getting crypto on apps, that means we're doing our job well. So agree with that completely. One quick question came up about recent EU regulation and the MiCA rule. I think that's really great to call out. You know, in the US, there's a lot of regulatory ambiguity as legislators and regulators are trying to come to an understanding of what they think the path forward there is. And the European Union has been much more, I'd say, maybe more organized and more speedy. And so this rule MiCA has been introduced. For Paxos, we are trying to do legal analysis to understand all of the nuance of that, but this is the kind of clarity and innovation in regulation that we want to see. We want to see sandboxes and places where jurisdictions where there are rules so that companies like Paxos can innovate and build in clarity. And we like to say clarity, consistency. There are 3 C's. Clarity, consistency, and certainty are the key that we're looking for when it comes to regulation. So for us, we are looking for a specific country for which we want to get regulated within the EU, so then we could passport our services. No specifics to share there yet, but that is something we're excited about. And ultimately, when you look at how we grow and how we are, targeting our growth, we want to be serving the geographies where our customers want to be. So we will look to expand in regions where our customers are saying we want to grow there. And so that's also why you see a lot of our growth happening in Latin America right now. Okay, now going more back to specific engineering team dynamics. Simon, and Shai too, what are the biggest opportunities for somebody who is a new joiner on the Eng team at Paxos?
I can go first, Shai, and then you can add. So we talked earlier about impact and being able to influence and being able to own something. So be an owner is something we talk about at Paxos. And coming in, whether it's entry level, whether you're experienced as an engineer, there's some guarantees you're going to get. One is you're going to be working on something that you're not going to have 100% certainty on. Okay, so you're going to have to go away, find out how to do a discovery on it. You're going to have to work cross-functionally as well. So whether you're working with product, whether you're working with strategic initiatives, whether you're working with compliance, there'll be something there that they will enrich or give you that input to. So coming in to quite an ambiguous problem, okay, you need to work it out. You've never come across it before, but you can be assured that there's the team around you that if you ask the question, somebody's going to come back and give you the response. Now, it may be a very direct response because another value is real-time candor. And that's one thing that I, in joining Paxos, really appreciated, because you got it there in the moment. And again, direct feedback, continuous loops really up levels and brings the bar up. So yeah, it's innovation, creativity, and having to be curious as well. Okay, so I think a question earlier was, what's the next asset to be tokenized on the blockchain? Is it, so we've seen NFTs, we've seen Bored Apes. If anybody predicted that, fair play. But we talk about actual mortgages and different asset classes. So there's a plethora out there. To Cal's point, we're going to be very strategic in terms of what we pick. And again, we'll have a method and approach to do that, but we don't have all the answers on day one.
Yeah, I might add to that. So Simon, kind of starting where you started, touching on the core values. We have 4 core values: commitment to excellence, real-time candor, being an owner, and
Search for the truth.
Searching for the truth, yeah. So the core values are really kind of important in order to help you kind of drive success as a new engineer at Paxos. Whether it is searching for the truth, which means you can kind of ask around and debate and really kind of question a lot of premeditated ideas, or question patterns. Whether it is being an owner, just kind of jumping or owning epics or tickets or outcomes. And then the real-time candor one is, it's not like we walk around with iPads and rate everyone, right? But it is important to voice your opinion and ask questions, and the question will be answered. So, we try to make it level appropriate. So if you're a senior engineer versus someone who is more, of a junior in your career or staff engineer, we want to make it level appropriate for people, but we never try to hold people back or to tell people don't ask this question because someone who's senior to you is asking this. It just said that this is the way things are done. So really kind of encouraging people's curiosity and trying to make it so that everyone feels like they have an impact. Yeah, and we try to set people up for success as well. So when they join, we give, kind of a first commit, first sprint, kind of have a very good onboarding process where you can take smaller pieces and then kind of check out the code, make sure everything is running, deploying through the environments, and set up for success that way.
Building on that a little, Shai, can you talk about what the growth trajectory for somebody that doesn't want to be a people manager, that's an individual contributor, really looks like at Paxos?
Yes, of course. And that's a really good question, because people usually assume that the only way up is management, but we have a solid technical track. We have non-senior and then senior engineers, and then we develop towards staff engineers and even principal. So as you kind of move up the technical track, you own more and more outcomes and are responsible for the success of multiple projects and teams. Usually a staff engineer would be a technical lead on the team and responsible for things like sprints and big designs and architecture and communicating with peer teams and with the infrastructure teams on the best practices. And as you kind of move up the technical ladder, you become more of an architect and less of a hands-on engineer.
That's great. Before I move to a more fun topical question, I just want to head off an additional question of what is the advantage of being a regulated crypto platform? And really the advantage is, from Paxos's perspective, is the market becomes so much bigger. Because we see our technology being addressable to all asset classes, that means trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars can be put on a blockchain, and our pipes, as Kyle said, can serve the movement of those assets. So we have pursued becoming a regulated crypto platform because we want to serve the enterprises of the world that are serving all of the millions and billions of people. So it ultimately allows for greater scale and volume for us in the long term. We don't believe that enterprises that are already in a regulated industry will be able to, in the long term, work with partners that aren't regulated. Ultimately, we want to play with the big guys. You got to look like the big guys. So that's why we've taken the approach we do. More fun question is, how do we stay up to date on the latest trends and innovations in blockchain technology? And this is interesting because I'm sure all of us will have a different approach. But for me, I look to these guys to share smart articles, cool tech. So you guys, how do you stay up to date?
Well, maybe I could answer that and bring it back to something Simon said earlier about Bored Apes. Unfortunately, we did spot that, because I remember very vividly there was this huge internal debate. These things had gotten to like $200 and what were the potential use case, and some clever people bought a lot of them at that point. But I think the larger point is there's this level of intellectual curiosity, no matter what function you're in. People are interested in what's happening. People actively debate it. and discuss it. Search the truth comes in there as one of our company values. Like, hey, this is an interesting headline. Does it mean this? What do you think this? Is this quote alluding to this other thing? And there's an active dialogue there. There's also one of the services or ways that PM enables engineering. It's our job to help the engineers make sure they're staying on top of all the important trends and they understand all the things happening that might affect the products they're building. So I can think of times where Shai and I and teams we've collaborated on are sometimes spending time going through like, okay, here are the trends. Here's what we've seen in the market. Here's reviewing user research and discussing all of that. And it comes down to just talking about all the interesting things happening in our industry.
Yeah, I think because we're innovative, there's so many open-ended problems, and definitely through observing how we developed key assets such as stablecoins, or some of the trading applications that we're developing, I've always been astounded by kind of the critical thinking and the creative thinking of basically creating a new market or a new token or a new asset that doesn't exist anywhere. So you can adapt patterns, but eventually we kind of rely on our people to drive and make those decisions in innovation forward.
Just to close that one out, so in terms of the people point and closer to home, we do sponsor those that attend events, whether it be a big conference or to get a speaker slot at a conference. And what we do ask is when people are representing Paxos, they come back and actually teach the wider team. So what did you learn? What did you see? What's the next 5 big themes or trends, and where do we position ourselves in that? So it is innovation, curiosity, and then there's lots and lots of threads internally that you can learn from, whether it be commentary or metaverse or whatever else.
Yeah, there's one question that I think hits on that innovation and curiosity question, which is, do we see ourselves eventually being only the pipes and software, or are we going to move away from stablecoin issuance or other token issuance? I think what's important is because we are kind of agnostic to blockchains and to tokens, we really are looking at opportunities and we're being opportunistic moving forward. If something is working, we'll continue to do that. If we see that there's a big opportunity to tokenize Palladium, maybe we'll go there. I think that we are looking at the space with open eyes, and we're not closing off any opportunities at this point since it's so nascent. The technology is still so young. We still really haven't seen one single big bank move into this space at full scale. So I think that's an important reminder that Paxos is agile, and we are evaluating everything and seeing if it really ultimately will support our clients' desires. So another question is, what is the biggest technical challenge that we're dealing with right now? I'm not assigning anyone specifically. You can jump in.
I can definitely take that one. So there are 3 main themes that are sort of in line with what we discussed already about the maturity of the product and the growth. So we are planning for big growth ahead. So one of the things that we're doing is scaling our system. We have some awesome code, and it needs to scale. So we're always testing it, we're always scaling it, we're always building it out to sustain more and more volume. The other thing that we are doing in line with that, and I already mentioned microservices, is breaking up the existing monoliths that we have and introducing a lot more efficiencies into how we test, deploy, develop code, diversifying our languages, and kind of going into more and more strategic language adoption. And I think because we are always developing new products that can be developed in any number of ways, it's always a matter of picking the right tools and the right implementation for each product. It can be done in various ways. You can optimize for speed, you can optimize for scale, you can optimize for a specific set of customer required APIs. So we always try to kind of sift through all the different inputs and then find the best architecture and implementation for our features that we're building.
There's one other question in here that I think is really interesting, which is how frequently are teams adjusting their strategies in response to evolving tech trends? There's a few ways in which we could answer this, but I think I'll start it out by, every year, like I'm sure every other company on the planet, we have a strategy that we start out the year with. And obviously, market forces can impact a strategy. But we introduced the strategy to the company in January, and lots has happened in the industry since, but we often talk about how the 3 pillars of that strategy have remained the same. We are focused on, building a premier technology platform for financial innovation. That has remained the same. We are focused on tokenizing the world's most important financial assets. That's the same for this year, despite headwinds. And then enabling compliant and seamless transactions. That's the same. So when it comes down to kind of the nitty gritty in various engineering squads, trends can impact certain things, but it's not impacting the overall company strategy. So with that in mind, any other notes on that from the peanut gallery?
Yeah, so Simon, go for it.
Just one thing that I know is a hot topic at the minute. So AI, ML, ChatGPT, all the other things. Everybody talks about it. Everybody's inquisitive. We show respect to it would be my answer. We look at it. We try and understand it. We try to understand the legal implications in particular in terms of IP, etc. So with all of these trends, and again, it's around being present in these industry forums and understanding what's it trending towards and how much time can you give yourself to actually invest in and look at it and understand it. To Becky's point, there's a longer strategic roadmap for the company. How those get broken down in terms of our quarterly planning, our OKRs, our sprint plan, etc. Obviously, we know what we're aiming towards, but back to my earlier point, there's often 3 options to do to achieve an outcome. So we will, again, show respect to what comes in front of us. We will always take on new information. But again, we'll always make the right call for Paxos. And again, it's a medium long-term play as opposed to what's going to be in fashion for the next 6 months.
Yeah, I would add just, it really, at the more tactical level, it's at best some resequencing that the team's thinking on the specific things they might do. If there's, steps A, B, C, D, they may be like, oh, let's do step C and then step B, because that's actually going to solve or get us to our long-term goals faster. Otherwise, like Becky said, the long-term vision and strategy over the years has remained true. And it's every year as we reassess with everything and write this big doc and restate where we're going. It's funny how little in some ways at a high level actually changes.
Now, there's still a lot of great questions coming in, and I appreciate everyone's engagement here. I don't know if we'll be able to get to all of them, because I do want to kind of close out for each of you in a more forward-looking and fun thing, and also retrospective. So the question is for each of you, what is the one thing that surprised you the most about joining Paxos? And what is your favorite product or project that you've worked on? We'll start with Simon.
So
putting you all on the spot.
Yeah, no, happy to take it, Becky. So I've been with Paxos coming up a year and a half or so. What most interested me was that, or what did I most not understand before? What was the question? So I can play it back.
What surprised you the most about once you joined Paxos, and what was your favorite product or project that you worked on?
So what surprised me was the breadth and depth of our partners and customers. Okay, so you had seen a few of the big headlines, but whenever you see what Paxos does and the outreach and the footprint that we have, again, back to the globalization point, that was an eye-opener for me. In terms of, it's just phenomenal. And again, we're not done yet. We're only another few steps along this journey. And again, it's a long-term play that we're all looking at here, and we're all working to help each other out.
Go Shy, your turn.
Sure, yeah. So if I had to pick one, the thing that surprised me the most when I joined was our ability to really search for the truth. And it just translates to understanding which products will have the best market fit, launching the right products, asking the right questions. It comes all the way from leadership, and it really makes it so that everything that we work on is very, very intentional. And that also translates to how we deal with regulation, or everything that is involved in that. So that is I didn't mean to forget that core value earlier, because it's the most important one and the most surprising one for me when I joined. And then my favorite, I would say, are stable coins. I manage trading, but I contributed and my team contributed quite a bit to our stablecoin offering. And it is a product that is fully regulated, fully backed, and I think it's got great things in the horizon for it. So it's definitely kind of my favorite product.
Yeah, the thing that surprised me most is actually how similar the software development process is here as every other tech company I've worked for throughout my career. At the end of the day, we're building software. They're not crazy unique practices. There's some unique to blockchain or crypto things you need to learn, but you can totally adapt and figure those out. But at the end of the day, it's tried and true principles that are adopted as best practice that any tech company apply here. And that's been pleasantly surprising that that's the case. And then favorite thing, I want to say many things I'm working on that have not quite seen the light of day, that Becky will definitely not want me to say. So things in the past, I would go back to launching the PayPal partnership. I can remember very vividly, Bitcoin's at $4,000. I wish I would have done a few more test transactions the day we launched in hindsight, but that was just so fun to see the headlines and all the work that went into that, and know that we launched something that fundamentally changed the entire industry. And it's exciting to know that we've got a few more of those in the pipeline. So stay tuned.
I'd say we have more than a few. We've got a lot in the pipeline. So last question, which is a layup: are we hiring?
Yes.
Yes.
So,
Absolutely.
Yes, we are. So thank you, Kyle, Shai, Simon. Thank you to the entire team that helped us put this together. We have lots of job opportunities available on our website. Please check them out. And if we couldn't, I see that there's dropped into the chat right here. Click through to see specific opportunities. Really, I can't speak highly enough of Paxos and how important and affectionately I look at my time here. So, and I'm still here. So we're going. So thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. And we'll have this webinar available after.
thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye now.